Chapter 3: The Healing Journey. Inside of all of us are skill sets, tools, and awareness that want to awaken while we are here on our earthly journey so that we can bring love and healing to the world and make it a better place. As infinite and all-knowing beings, our spiritual selves are capable of doing anything at a masterful level. However, just as every human is unique and is drawn to different passions and interests, so are spirits. As spirits, we each offer very specific skill sets and spend many lifetimes on Earth honing certain human skills. Beyond this, in the spirit realm, we use our unique passions and abilities to help other spirits in a million different ways. Since we know ahead of time that once we become human, we will become unconscious, our spirit strategizes with other supporting spirits in a pre-life planning session to figure out what type of life experiences we require to help us wake back up and to give us access to the tools we need in order to spread love. Then we design our journey with agreements from other helping spirits who come to Earth with us, play crucial roles in our lives, and hopefully help us wake up exactly when we need to do so. One way that our skill sets are awakened within us is through experiencing specific wounding and trauma. These wounds force us to confront very challenging situations, and if we can find the strength to engage in a healing process, we typically come out the other side changed and ready to help the world in some way. As we discussed above, pain can sometimes be a catalyst for opening our heart and deepening us. This is the path of the wounded healer, a path of transformation. The wounded healer is also a warrior because it takes warrior-level strength to come down into this traumatized world and receive wounding as part of finding our gifts. Therefore, this is also a warrior's journey. Our wounding sets us on a path of deep transformation and self-discovery. Like pain, wounds, when worked with productively, are incredible teachers and guides. In this context, our wounds are rooted in love because they can turn us into better versions of ourselves. However, there is a difference between productive and unproductive wounds. One helps us grow and deepen, while the other is meant to cause unnecessary harm to people. The second one is rooted in motives other than love. In the beginning stages of the healer's journey, we are naive, happy versions of ourselves, unaware of the challenges and pain of this world, and unaware of the pain we are about to endure. Eventually, we have our second fall from grace, a loss of innocence and confusion due to pain. This is where our journey begins. Experiencing deep pain for the first time can be shocking and overwhelming, and we can struggle to understand what is happening to us. We have not yet built the tolerance needed for dealing with such things. Furthermore, we have no perspective to understand what is happening to us and why. Because of this, we tend to create inaccurate interpretations of the situation, usually blaming ourselves in some way for the pain we are experiencing. We can also draw inaccurate conclusions about ourselves, believing that we are weak, worthless, or undeserving of love. These inaccurate conclusions and interpretations are among the most damaging aspects of trauma, and these are the catalysts that take us deeper into our wounds. As children, we need close, loving connections in order to thrive, and our bodies instinctually know this. It's not just for our physical survival, but also for our mental and emotional health. Because of this, we naturally adapt in whatever ways are needed to preserve the close connection between us and our caretakers. Even if we are in the unfortunate position of having a very unhealthy parent who can't offer us close connection, we will still try our hardest to preserve the goodness we long for them to have. Part of how we do this is by taking the blame for the problems of our family or other close dynamics in our life. In taking this blame, our closest people are no longer the problem, we are. And this helps to preserve in our minds the good version of them that we need to have in order to stay closely connected to them, no matter their behavior. Alternatively, if we were to view these people as the cause of our problems, we would be repulsed by them, and our drive to be in close connection with them would no longer exist. This is one of the mechanisms that cause us to draw inaccurate conclusions about ourselves and the harmful situations we find ourselves in. Due to the fact that we are young and naive and have no life experience yet, we don't think to challenge the unfortunate conclusions we have drawn about ourselves, and instead we buy into them fully. To make things worse, we may be told directly and inaccurately by unhealthy individuals that we are indeed the problem. This shapes who we are and who we become, and it activates internal pain, which begins the process of losing our sense of self. We stop trusting our intuition, body wisdom, and authentic inclinations and expressions, because if we were to listen to them, they would tell us that our conclusions about ourselves and our family dynamics are wrong. Since we can't afford to know this yet, we have to disconnect ourselves from our body's messages. This is part of how we begin to struggle within ourselves, amplifying the pain. This also contributes to our downward spiral into our wounds. Wounding takes many different forms. Some of it is overt wounding, like physical abuse, while other wounding is covert, hidden in the emotional dynamics of our family system. Covert wounding is hard to understand because it's not easily seen, but is clearly felt. Also, covert wounding is accumulative and takes time to damage us. Often in our Western culture, we give more attention to people who've experienced overt wounding because we know how harmful this is, whereas people experiencing covert trauma can sometimes be left without proper support and acknowledgement. No matter what version you experience, pain and trauma are damaging to everyone, and we all need a lot of love and care in order to work through this and heal. For more discussion on covert emotional wounds, check out my first book, The Highly Intelligent Body. Being lost is an important part of the journey because we need to experience pain and find our way out of it in order to gain the wisdom and strength we need to transform. Usually, in the beginning, because we buy in so hard to the unfortunate ideas about ourselves, we tend not to think twice about the pain we are experiencing, especially in a Western culture that gives us easy access to overriding our pain via medications, addictions, and drugs. Because of this, it can take more time to have the clarity that we need to face our pain and not run from it. In facing it, we can begin the healing process and better understand who we really are and what hurtful things we've been through. Beyond this, going through healing makes us a more aware and compassionate person, and often we begin to have a longing to bring healing to others and this world. The healing journey is a challenging and rewarding adventure with different phases of growth along the way. Each phase offers us different opportunities for awakening, finding strength, tapping into our authenticity, and finding healing, wisdom, and love. Below is a discussion of each of these phases. The second fall from grace. When we are first wounded and begin to feel substantial pain, this is our second fall from grace. Before this happens, we are still living in some state of innocence, unaware of the complexity, challenges, and pain of this world. This is a time of joyful unawareness, where we can still be our full self, expressing all of who we are without holding back. In this time, we are also able to love fully, and we are deeply connected to the spiritual world and our own personal wisdom. But eventually, we start the initiation onto our life path, and often this is done by experiencing pain and/or trauma. What's discombobulating about this initial introduction into pain is that we not only have no reference for it on the physical level, but we also don't understand it on a spiritual level. Our spiritual self would never cause pain to anyone because we are unconditionally loving beings who are fully conscious that love is the most important energy in the universe. And so when we are met with pain, it goes against everything in our being. Because of this, a loud, concerning feeling gets activated within us, telling us that something is really wrong. For some, this comes in the form of panic or fear, and for others, it's a deep sadness. It's not always easy to remember this initial reaction because as we become adults, we are normalized to pain. But the body is incredibly intelligent and will always give us warnings when something isn't right. If you experienced a more subtle form of trauma, the body will still give you warnings right away, but it's not as obvious that something is wrong. This subtle wounding process is similar to that of the frog being slowly cooked in hot water without knowing it's happening. Thankfully, the body is very attuned to these sorts of problems. However, we usually have no idea of what's going on. The classic example of this is a child whose parent is not fully capable of giving them love. Because of this, sometimes they can feel extremely connected to their parent, but at other times they can feel totally emotionally abandoned. Since this dynamic provides some connection, we grab hold of that as evidence that our parents can provide for us fully. However, in time, we tend to suffer from things like anxiety, depression, and deep insecurity, classic body symptoms that indicate that we did not come from a securely attached parental relationship. In this initial phase of pain, it's all about survival. We're not prepared yet to go on a reflective and deepening healing journey because we just want to make the pain go away. Due to this, we turn to whatever methods we have access to, whether distractions, clinging to our parents or friends, eating lots of sugar, acting out, blaming ourselves, or whatever might work to lessen the pain for a moment. And depending on the family dynamic we grow up in, we may or may not have parents who understand what's happening to us. Resisting pain, the calling. Having the courage to confront our pain is no easy task, and most of us experience some kind of fear when thinking of doing this. For many of us, avoiding our pain seems easier than being curious about it, even if this choice puts us in challenging positions in the long run. If we come from unhealthy family dynamics where we are constantly experiencing hurtful interactions, or if we are struggling with a lot of personal pain, confronting our pain might feel like the harder choice. This brings us to our second phase of the healing journey, which is resisting the calling of our pain. This phase can last years, even decades, before we finally build up the strength and courage we need to confront the painful realities of our life and make a change. Furthermore, we may need key supportive people or environments in our lives before we are able to access the stability we need to face our pain. Whatever the unique process may be, the time spent running away from our pain is very important because it helps us to inevitably be broken down in key ways that we can find the motivation to finally make a big, hopefully positive life shift. Being broken down can unlock the key awareness, compassion, and wisdom, to name a few qualities, that we need to be the best versions of ourselves and bring our gifts to the world later on. Thankfully, the body never gives up on us. It will always cause us some kind of pain when something hurtful is happening to us or when we have unhealed wounds and unmet needs within us. It also tends to make our pain worse over time, especially when we aren't dealing with the problem until we finally have the courage to confront the issue. This may sound like a brutal system, but in reality, this is an act of love, because if the body were to not continuously let us know about our pain, we would never be aware that something was wrong and we would never be pushed to heal it. Confronting our pain is extremely hard, and everyone deserves empathy for avoiding this process. We all have very good reasons why we avoid ourselves in this way, whether because the pain is too great to face by ourselves, it's not the right time to deal with it, we have other important priorities that need our attention, or we have no one who will support us in a compassionate way. Either way, we all have to go through a particular amount of time when we are cooked by our pain in order to unlock the motivation and drive to make a big change in our life. Another challenging factor when it comes to facing our pain is that most of us don't want to be different from those around us. As discussed above, our need to have close connections with people around us forces us to adapt in whatever ways are required to make this happen. Not only do we take on unfair blame and draw inaccurate conclusions about ourselves in order to help us continue to view unhealthy people and dynamics in a better light, but we also make huge efforts to fit in. Fitting in is a part of keeping close connections alive, and we will do whatever it takes to feel like a part of a family, community, or peer group. As children and young adults, we are very aware of the authentic aspects of ourselves that don't get good feedback. And we know if we embrace these parts, it could hurt the possibilities of us being accepted and staying closely connected to the people we care about. Because of this, part of our adaptation is to suppress and distance ourselves from authentic pieces of who we are until we have the courage and support to embrace them. This is one of the main sources of the pain that we end up carrying into the future. The body knows that being our most authentic self is key to our overall health and wellness. And anytime we cut off a part of our authenticity, the body will have painful symptoms as an indicator of this happening. This is because when we do this, it is the equivalent of cutting off our arm or leg just so that we can fit in. It's important to notice just how powerful our drive to be connected to others is. So powerful, in fact, that we will sacrifice ourselves to have it. This sacrificing of our authenticity happens in a lot of unconscious, small ways, and therefore it's hard to understand how much we have lost our sense of self until one day we wake up, maybe years or decades later, and we don't feel good about who we are or our life. Additionally, we may struggle with many different forms of pain that we can't always explain. This includes not just physical pain like chronic headaches and migraines, but also mental and emotional pain like hating ourselves or being depressed. All of these different types of body pain, no matter what forms have shown up for you, can be symptomatic of a loss of key parts of yourself or living a life that is not aligned for your highest good. Healing this and going back to who we truly are is not so simple, partially because we've built out a specific identity that we now rely on, and it's scary to shift or let go of it. Furthermore, in letting go of our false self and embracing who we are, we risk loss of certain relationships in our lives and other forms of harm or mistreatment, a struggle that many people from the LGBTQIA+ community know all too well. However, in stepping towards authenticity, we gain access to big energy and a better life, and we open the doors for experiencing healthier, more satisfying relationships. Another reason why we resist our pain is that our wounds and what we've had to experience are too overwhelming to confront. The truth about different aspects of our reality, both past and present, are too painful to connect to and see. Therefore, we make strategic choices to try to disconnect ourselves from our body, the present moment, the past, and the pain that is knocking at our door. This is a protective response that is designed to keep us safe no matter what, even if protecting ourselves from big pain will cause us other pain instead. This protective mechanism occurs because, from the body's perspective, our day-to-day survival is the most important priority, and this keeps us safe in ways that allows us not only to survive, but also to function through intense and sometimes traumatic experiences and environments. Many of us have past experiences as well as certain thoughts and feelings that are too big for us to face alone. We know what these parts of us are because we tend to have a natural drive to avoid them at all times. Take, for example, a deep feeling within us that we are unlovable, a conclusion that is only drawn from real-time experiences. Sitting in this belief all alone might cause us to experience an intense state of depression or self-hatred, one that we may not be able to pull ourselves out of for quite a long time. Instead of risking this, we try to avoid it and engage in different disconnecting strategies, such as consuming harmful substances, having to always be on the go, trying to always have fun, never wanting to be alone, overworking, working out too much, trying to get love and attention in whatever ways we can, and zoning out on our phones or TVs. These distractions are important because without them, we might drown in our pain. The body knows which pain is too much for us to bear and reacts to it as something life-threatening, because it could be so if these feelings were to overrun us. Because of this, it helps us disengage with these emotions as much as possible until there is a better time for us to deal with them. This is a very normal part of our survival process. Pain also comes from having to confront the unfortunate truth of our reality, which we cannot afford to see until we are ready. This would include seeing how toxic and painful our relationships really are with our parents, friends, romantic partners, or community. This can also include truths about the racist and unfair aspects of our society and where we fit in to all of that, among other things. Whatever challenging truths exist about our lives, there's a time and place when we are prepared to confront them. But until we are ready, we tend to try to avoid our pain for as long as we need to. This doesn't mean that reality doesn't come knocking at our door when we aren't ready, but even then, we have avoidance strategies that we lean on to try to cope. The final reason we avoid pain is that we become normalized to it. So much suffering and injustice are happening all around us, and we have to adapt to experiencing and witnessing it all. This is no easy task as we are highly sensitive, loving creatures by nature, so it takes time for us to grow a thicker skin. Part of this is for our own survival. We can't afford to feel our pain, other people's pain, or the world's pain all day long, because this would be overwhelming and would make us non-functional. Thankfully, our bodies are very smart and help us to disengage with all the pain around us by normalizing it. This allows us to no longer feel certain aspects of it, which is deeply helpful in the moment. However, it also prevents us from connecting more deeply to our own issues, which can cause us problems down the road. Beyond this, we become numb to pain by repeated exposure to it. When this happens, we are no longer fully in our body. One problem with this is that we can get used to unhealthy dynamics and no longer see them as an issue. A current example of this is the way Americans have become accustomed to gun violence. Normalization of pain is a form of resisting it, as we are no longer listening and being motivated by it. And in extreme situations, we can stop feeling it altogether. This is a real problem because pain is meant to help us grow and change in positive ways. But when we get used to it, we can sometimes become unmotivated to heal. Furthermore, if we are in pain for too long, it can change us into unhealthy versions of ourselves, and we can unconsciously spread pain to others. Ultimately, the pain we experience is meant to push us to go through a healing, deepening process, a responsibility we all have when we have the resources to begin to tackle it. Thankfully, our body will always remind us of our pain, no matter how accustomed to it we are, and no matter how many numbing medications we take. This is because our body loves us and is designed to help us heal and become the best version of who we are. The search for healing. There comes a time in many of our lives when we are done ignoring our pain and are finally ready to make a change. We have been building up to this moment for a long time, gathering energy, resources, courage, and whatever else we need to make this change happen. Alternatively, sometimes big change happens to us when we aren't expecting it, and we are thrown into this transformative process without a choice. Whatever path got us here, we are now on the precipice of big transformation and healing, and we are about to set out on a journey that requires courage, determination, and resilience to reap the benefits of growth and deepening. When it comes to making a conscious choice to change, we often already know what problem we need help with, but we don't always know what that help will look like and what process we have to go through in order to heal. Whether this is a struggle with unhappiness, past emotional or physical trauma, addiction of some kind, an unhealthy romantic relationship, a job that is unsatisfying, or a life that feels meaningless, there are very specific things that have been knocking at our door for quite a while. Because of this, some of the bigger solutions can be quite obvious, like having to end a partnership that is no longer serving us. But the day-to-day details of how to do this and the kind of support we will need to get through it can be less clear. For those brave souls who have the strength and courage to go on a healing and transformative journey, the beginning is often one of the most challenging parts of it. This is because when we decide to face ourselves, make significant changes in our lives, and search for the support and tools we need in order to heal, most of us don't know where to start. Additionally, the idea of change can feel very overwhelming and can make us freeze and shut down due to fear. Alternatively, the universe can sometimes provide a person or an opportunity for us that is a catalyst to start our journey, which can be very helpful. More commonly, this is a time of transition when we may feel directionless, lost, or stuck in fear. The good news is, once we truly commit to healing, we begin to call new energy into our life. This is the power of our intentions. Even if those intentions have not yet been spoken out loud, the energy that's emitted from the body when we feel determined to change is enough to call in brand new people, new opportunities, new experiences, new ways of living, and more. Additionally, the universe is deeply committed to bringing out the most authentic, healthiest version of us. And once we are ready for this, it will provide the tools, people, opportunities, and resources we need to pull it off. Even though we feel deeply underconfident about making a change, what is required of us during this period is trust, courage, and faith. We need to have faith that our prayers and longings will be heard by the all-loving universe, and that the universe will provide us with what we need at each moment. This faith is not easy to maintain, especially when we are still suffering. But if we are determined enough to change our lives for the better, clarity, direction, and support will eventually arrive. We just need to have the fortitude to bravely walk into the unknown and the determination to find what we need. Since the universe is all-knowing and all-loving, everything that happens to us has purpose and meaning. This means that we are given the exact journey and experiences we need to fully come into our authentic self. For some, the universe will bring in support immediately, while others have to wait. The waiting time is not a punishment, nor is it the universe not hearing our cries. It is the universe providing what is truly needed. Often, while we are forced to wait, we are also being forced to confront different aspects of ourselves. We are still being cooked and broken down by the universe. If we can trust the universe and our spiritual allies know what is truly best for us, and that everything it does comes from a place of deep love, this gives us the strength we need to persevere through this process. This doesn't mean that we won't struggle, have profound doubts about our choices, and feel like giving up at times. But understanding that there are loving reasons behind all of it can help us to continue to move forward. During this initial phase of healing, there are 3 major things that we need to do in order to help ourselves on this path. The first thing is to say our daily prayers out loud in the morning before our day unfolds. We do this in the morning because the events of our day are still unknown, and we want to have an energetic influence over what will happen. Those who are turned off to the idea of prayer can say their daily intentions out loud, which is what praying is all about. This practice, when done correctly, calls into our lives the things we need. It is done by speaking our intentions out loud instead of keeping them to ourselves. This is very important because it not only sets up the right energy that we are trying to cultivate, but it also helps us move through our daily lives with a different lens. For example, we can ask the universe for help by saying, Dear all-loving and all-knowing universe, please send me the people, opportunities, and support I need in order to heal my wounds. Please send me people who have done their healing work, who understand what I'm going through, and who can provide the tools I need in order to heal. Please guide me on this healing path and show me where I need to go. Please help me accomplish my goal of healing. By asking for the help in this way, the energy of our entire day will change. Not only will you, most likely, feel emotionally uplifted by asking for this, but as the day unfolds, you will be primed to notice how the universe is going to show up for you and guide you. This would include being able to notice when the right people and circumstances show up in the ways you're asking for. When it comes to utilizing our prayers effectively, the key is to be honest with what you are saying and asking for, because the energy of honesty is much more powerful than less truthful energy. For example, don't pray for world peace when that is not something that you are called to pray for, even if it sounds pretty. Instead, ask for the money you need to fix your car, something you are really in need of. This is not to say that we shouldn't put prayers out into the world that are for other people and the earth, which is very important to do. But we shouldn't do it because of our ego, or out of fear or guilt, or because of some false idea that saying those things somehow makes us a good person. The second thing we need to do is to practice listening to both ourselves and the universe. With regard to the universe, we practice noticing the opportunities and guidance it gives us in each moment. Are there opportunities or people in our life that are good for us, but that we might be resistant to? Are we sabotaging any possibilities for being helped or loved? In what ways is the universe guiding me today on my healing journey? These are the type of questions that we need to reflect on so that we can become better listeners. We also need to be good listeners to ourselves. How am I feeling right now? What type of support do I really need in the moment? Do I need to find a therapist? Do I need to go outside more? Do I need to stop socially isolating myself? We have to be willing to listen to our inner guidance because our body is also very attuned to our deep needs and the healing path that is meant for us. The third important thing to do is take action. This is not a time to sit still and wait for something to happen. It is a time to create opportunities for ourselves. Moreover, we don't yet know how the universe will provide for us, so we have to be willing and open to all the possibilities of it bringing in people or situations that will help us on our journey. With this said, we want to take action in ways that will benefit us, and the only way to do that is to check in with ourselves about the ideas we have or the people, places, and activities we are drawn towards. This will most likely include a variety of different things, including spending more time with good quality friends, taking the class that we always wanted to try, looking for a therapist or life coach, and starting to read books on healing, all the while keeping our eyes and ears open to new opportunities that come our way. We want to trust our most natural instincts because this is often how we are being guided to the people and places that are meant for us. As long as we carry the intention for healing, our body will feel that energy and show us where to go. Also, we want to practice working within a belief system that enables the universe and our body to speak with us directly in clear and obvious ways. There's no need for mysterious or hidden messages. Go for the simple, obvious, and direct guidance. Last, remember that even when we are in a lot of pain and are struggling to figure out what to do about it, we are never alone in the process. The universe and our spiritual guides are always there, watching, helping, and guiding us, even when we don't realize it. We are never forgotten, never abandoned, always heard, and the universe and our bodies want us to become the healthiest, most authentic, fullest versions of ourselves. An entire invisible support team are always by our side, and if we are open enough to experiencing them, we can. I end this section with one of my favorite poems, Footprints in the Sand. One night, I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes from my life flashed across the sky. In each scene, I noticed footprints in the sand. Sometimes there were two sets of footprints. Other times, there were one set of footprints. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life, when I was suffering from anguish, sorrow, or defeat, I could only see one set of footprints. So I said to the Lord, "You promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always." But I noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there have only been one set of footprints in the sand. Why, when I needed you most, have you not been there for me? The Lord replied, "The times when you have seen only one set of footprints is when I carried you." Mary Stevenson. The repetitive nature of healing. In our determination to heal, we start to find the people and circumstances we need to begin the healing process. This includes help to access new awareness and understand the trauma and challenges we have been through. We are also given the guidance, support, and tools we need to begin unwinding and healing our wounds. This is a time of expanding our emotional and mental awareness and starting to realize that there are other people on this journey too. With all this, we begin to see part of our healing path. When these helpful people and opportunities show up in our lives, there can be a sense of excitement and reinvigoration for living. Our body knows that something important has just arrived, which reflects as symptoms of hope. Furthermore, we can experience a feeling of deep relief because we are no longer alone and lost on our journey. We have finally found people who truly understand our pain and experience, people who can hear us, see us, and validate what we've been through, people who can give us the love and support we need and guide us on our journey to heal. Each and every one of us has specific emotional patterns and beliefs about ourselves and the world that cause us pain and suffering. Often, many of these patterns and beliefs are a result of unhealthy and hurtful situations and dynamics that we have been a part of, which led us to create inaccurate conclusions about ourselves and the world, such as a belief that our feelings are not important or valid. We learn these emotional patterns and ideas not just from our family and community interactions, but also from the Western patriarchal capitalistic culture as a whole. And these are some of the main areas of ourselves that we need help to confront and change in order to heal. This is no easy task because these emotional patterns and beliefs have been integrated into our identity, the life we've built, and how we move through the world. Therefore, it takes time and commitment to repeatedly return to these patterns and be in a continuous process of seeing them, unlocking them, and healing them. Our emotional patterns are just that, predictable patterns of thoughts, behaviors, and actions that we continuously engage in, whether consciously or unconsciously. Some of these patterns are a response to our wounds and the ways we've been unfairly treated. They are our adaptation for survival. Over time, these repetitive patterns create well-worn mental and emotional grooves, making how we feel, think, or respond to life more automatic and less conscious, some of which cause us to be in a continuous state of pain and suffering. Because of these well-worn grooves, when we start to heal, we continuously find ourselves being pulled back into these old patterns, which can feel frustrating or discouraging. It is only in repeatedly being helped out of these patterns that we finally break free of them, a practice that takes time. If we view this repetitive process as a learning that we have to go through in order to be transformed, we can see that although it is painful, it is actually a gift from the universe. This is because by being required to spend a huge amount of time and energy digging into certain thoughts, feelings, and patterns, we are pushed into a continuously deepening process that eventually gives us access to clarity, understanding, and tools that not only enhance our own lives, but will also help others. This process can help us become stronger, more courageous versions of ourselves. It's only when we've repeated this experience enough, and therefore gained the awareness we are meant to have, that we can feel substantial healing happen within us. Emotional patterns are truly incredible in the way that they are impossible to outsmart. This is because they are designed by the universe as a tool to help us grow, and we are meant to confront them repeatedly. As a universal principle, any tool designed by the universe can never be outsmarted by the logical human mind. There are many self-help tools out there that would argue otherwise, misleading us to believe that we can somehow speed up the healing process and make it easier to go through. But none of these tools are sustainable when it comes to relieving our pain and transforming us in a deep way. In order to break out of these patterns, we need the courage to be vulnerable and to vocalize to someone, like a therapist, what we are truly feeling or thinking on the inside. This is no easy task, as it can trigger emotions like fear, anxiety, self-judgment, shame, guilt, and embarrassment. We can have thoughts like, I don't know why I am like this, or I always struggle with things that are so random and stupid, or I know I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? It's in revealing these inner experiences that we begin the vulnerable process of not only being cared for by healthy, emotionally aware people, but also being seen for who we actually are. This is a powerful and deeply healing act, because it is only in being our truest self that we can experience deeper versions of love. And it is only in having the repetitive courage to reveal what is actually happening to us on the inside that true healing can happen. Nothing is ever random or by accident when it comes to how we feel or think, and we need help with listening and better understanding why we feel the way we do. This only happens with the right support from others. Another challenging aspect of breaking out of our emotional patterns is the ebb and flow of awareness. What this means is that when we are being helped to see ourselves in clear ways, and therefore gain healing insight into why we feel or think the way we do, we typically experience some sort of emotional relief and lightness in the moment. However, after a moment like this, or a therapy session that was extremely helpful, we return to our day-to-day routine, and we usually lose connection with this new awareness and get stuck in the same old patterns. Even if we can logically remember the new awareness that was shown to us, we can no longer emotionally connect to it, and therefore it has lost its deep relieving effect. This is a normal part of the healing process and breaking out of old patterns. The reason this happens is that our old patterns have well-worn grooves that keep bringing us back into them, whereas our new awareness has not been practiced to that extent. It is only by repetitively returning to the same conversations, struggles, and pain, and consistently being helped through them, that awareness will eventually stick to us. By going through this process, we are helped to go deeper within ourselves, and we get well practiced at being vulnerable, expressing our feelings, and asking for help from the right people until one day we are transformed. Due to the huge volume of repetitive conversations we need to have in order to truly process our feelings, the healing process tends to take way longer than we want it to. For those of us who have an inaccurate idea that this should be a quick process, disappointment and frustration will most likely arise. This slower process is designed to make certain that we have gotten the lessons, awareness, experiences, and transformations that we need in order to be the fullest, healthiest version of ourselves. It is also a way the universe confronts us about our intentions and commitment in the healing journey. It asks us, are you willing to do the real work, or are you not quite ready yet? Beyond the courage it takes to repetitively confront our patterns, the universe also has this way of double and triple checking that we truly learn the lessons we are meant to learn. Beyond having to constantly regain our awareness until it finally sinks in, We can also find ourselves in similar situations to what we have been in the past. For example, say you've worked really hard on emotionally healing and have truly changed in so many amazing ways. You then go home to visit your family for the holidays and are confronted by all the old patterns you just spent time getting out of. You then find yourself slipping into old, unhealthy behavior, family roles, and painful thinking patterns. You wake up from this only after you can get some space from your family and think, what the fuck just happened? How am I back in the same old shit that I've been trying to heal? Maybe I haven't done the healing work I thought I did. It's in these types of situations that the universe gives us opportunities to access deeper clarity and solidify our healing transformations. These moments are very normal and therefore are not backsteps, but rather helpful challenges designed to push you deeper on your journey. The healing process is repetitive by nature and requires deep strength, resilience, and vulnerability in order for us to be transformed by it. We are also meant to be messy and make many mistakes as we go through this process. Furthermore, healing takes way more time than we want it to, and instead of focusing on time, we should focus on our commitment to feeling better. All of this is a normal part of the healing process, something that is predictable and that we can expect to happen to us. Therefore, let's practice being kinder to our brave selves as we engage in healing. Positive feedback loop. As we continue to find the courage to show up and face our emotional wounds and patterning, we inevitably begin to build a positive momentum. This doesn't mean that all of our problems are solved or even that our pain suddenly disappears, but something begins to change. Instead of us being scared to go to therapy or other modalities and talk about our feelings, we start to look forward to it. We begin to realize that every time we confront our issues, we feel better in some way. This brings hope, curiosity, and excitement back into our lives. We think to ourselves, what new discoveries about myself will I find today? Also, our motivation for healing can sometimes change from a desire to be out of pain completely to becoming more interested in unlocking deeper awareness about ourselves and about life. Beyond this, we begin to desire healthier and deeper relationships with others and to attract new types of people and environments into our lives. With this comes less tolerance for unhealthy dynamics or people who don't want to connect in deeper ways. All of this adds up to a positive shift playing out in our lives. A third change that happens is how we relate to and interpret our wounds. We start to see how our wounds and the challenging experiences from our past are not all bad. Yes, it's true that these situations caused us great pain and suffering. However, without this pain, would we be in this position of deep awareness and growth right now? Would we have been able to become the conscious version of ourselves that we are today? It's a complicated thing to think about, how we can acknowledge all of our problems and yet be grateful for them all at the same time. We begin to see how our pain has gifted us with something we value, and although we would never wish for anyone to go through the pain we experienced, we also can't help but give credit to how it has powerfully enhanced our lives. This is the beginning of a process of forgiveness and letting go of the past. With this shift in how we see our wounds and relate to our pain, another shift occurs. We begin to have a better relationship with ourselves, including our body. Whereas before it was easy to blame the body as a thing that was always causing us pain and ruining our lives, now we begin to see how intelligent it is and how much it is guiding us in growth. There are a million ways the body is speaking with us about what needs to be healed, what energies are happening around us, and what we need to do to stay on our life's path. Furthermore, our body is a bridge between the physical world and our spiritual guides. Often our guides are speaking with us via the body's thoughts, feelings, and other sensations. As we heal our relationship with ourselves, we become more open to all of who we are and all the ways the body is speaking with us. Part of this newfound openness creates a desire to express ourselves more authentically. This includes embracing aspects of ourselves, including our race, sexual orientation, gender identity, and so on. Things that we may have been interested in or drawn to when we were younger start to show up again. Also, a desire to explore life and have new, interesting experiences arises. We start envisioning how an awesome version of our life could look, and our passion to live fully emerges. We start to envision how our awesome version of our life could look, and our passion to live fully emerges. With this passion comes expansiveness. We start to crave experiences and dynamics that help us to go deeper and become fuller, more conscious versions of ourselves. We can also desire to connect spiritually in ways that resonate with us. As part of this, big life questions can emerge, such as, what is the meaning of life? Or what happens after we die? Or what is my purpose here on earth? As part of this, we begin to return to our spiritual selves and the deep knowing that is within us. As you can see, when we begin to cultivate this positive momentum, even if some of our life problems haven't been solved yet, magical things start to happen. We get hooked into this positive feedback loop, this exciting and inspiring energy, which motivates us to go deeper into our healing journey. This is the beginning of a powerful transformation that we have worked hard to create. Returning home. As we make significant progress on our healing journey, we slowly come full circle to returning to our true self. However, since we've gone through a long, grueling process of growth, we come home changed by the journey. We are now a deeper, stronger, more capable, and more conscious version of ourselves. By experiencing as much pain as we did, and by having to find the courage and strength we needed to go through the healing process, we have been transformed, often humbled and softened, and our hearts are more open. We are now more capable of having empathy for others and relating to other people's flaws and struggles, and we are better listeners and communicators. We are also more tender with ourselves, having compassion for our younger self and all that we've been through. Ultimately, we have come home as a more complete version of ourselves. Having gone through this deepening and awakening process, we have a clearer understanding of who we are, how we operate, and how we want to show up in the world, as well as the gifts we want to contribute and the type of impact we want to make. This is us connecting to our calling, our soul's gift to the world. Additionally, as we dedicate time towards our own personal healing process, we inevitably come to a universal conclusion, which is that spreading love and having high-quality, close connections with others is the only way to live. This desire to spread love is rooted not only in the transformation we've gone through and the ways people showed up for us when we needed support, but also in a deeper realization that spreading love and care is the only way to have a high-quality life. In wanting to care for others and the world and being able to hold a deeper energetic and emotional space, we begin to have cravings to give back the wisdom and awareness that we've accumulated on our journey and the unique gifts that come with our authentic nature. This is when we begin to see our soul's life path more clearly. Within all of us are gifts that our soul has brought to earth, and these gifts are meant to be given to the world in order to help heal it or evolve it in some way. We don't always have access to our gifts until we go through some kind of initiation process, which helps us wake up to who we actually are and how we can use our gifts appropriately. Once we begin to have clarity about our life path, and we've claimed more of our authentic self, we often begin the next phase of our healing journey. This next phase is about taking action and creating a meaningful life. Like the first healing phase, this next part of our journey requires the same courage and strength to take action and move forward towards what we know needs to happen in our lives. This is no easy task, as often this pursuit requires us to do very hard things, and we have to be resilient in trusting both what we know needs to happen and that the universe will support us as we try to manifest our soul's dream. However, this time there is the advantage of being a stronger, wiser, more capable version of ourselves, and knowing that if we could find the strength to go through the first phase of healing, then we are definitely capable of figuring out what needs to happen now. Often there is an inaccurate idea that at some point in our healing and growth process, life will get easier. In some ways, this is true. We tend to suffer much less and find greater joy and richness in the life we create as we heal. However, what is also true is that the healing process never ends, and we are always being asked to grow and deepen in new ways. Being human is endlessly complex, and there are always new changes that require us to adapt, grow, and put in lots of hard work in order to continue moving forward on our path. In this regard, the work never ends, and we shouldn't expect that it will. This doesn't mean that we can't rest and have balance in our lives, but what keeps life interesting and exciting is the new growth opportunities that continue to come to us. And these require continued commitment of our focus and energy. As we begin to step into the next phase of our journey, one that asks us to take action and create, something to remember is that we have a lot of support to make this happen. Not only does this support come from good quality humans in our lives, but also from our spiritual team in the universe. When we are designing our life path as spirits, before coming to Earth, our deepest hope was that we would not only wake up to our authentic self, but that we could also make choices in our life to be aligned with our path. We put a lot of intention and specific opportunities into our life to try to make this happen. But we also know that we have free will and things don't always go as planned. With this in mind, when we do wake up and become aligned to our path, our higher self and our entire spiritual team jumps for joy. This is because we now have the ability to channel powerful and healing things into the physical realm, and everyone will benefit. This is a huge accomplishment. Everything is always oriented to try and make this happen. Due to this, as we continue to act in ways that align with our path, the entire universe and our spiritual allies support us to make this happen. This is what some might call being in the flow, when things start to happen in perfect timing. We need to remember this as we confront the parts of ourselves that have profound doubt or low confidence about our choices and the things we're being called to do. Often, what we are trying to pursue is outside of what our family and community expect of us. It can be outside of what some might deem normal societal standards. Because of this, we may be perceived by some as being weird, crazy, different, naive, and unrealistic. But we have to trust how our spirit is guiding us and the feeling of clarity that we have in our body about what we need to do. The universe will always provide the right opportunities and people for us to find the confidence we need in order to keep moving along our path. The healing journey is one of the most satisfying experiences we can go through due to the way it challenges us to dig deep and find a fuller, stronger, and more aware version of ourselves. As hard as this can be, the process is a gift from the universe. And it's hard not to be grateful as we are transformed in incredible ways. To be someone who has access to emotional awareness and depth is a luxury because not only does it provide us with the ability to live a fulfilling life, but it also gives us the ability to help others, which deeply satisfies our heart and soul. To be a person who can bring more love into this world feeds us in ways that nothing else can. And to be able to make deep, loving, close connections with others brings deep support and satisfaction. Although this journey is hard work, the gifts that come with it are unmatched.